Well, the scorching weather that swept across various cities in the country has made life quite uncomfortable. And those affected might have to bear it a little longer. It is expected to last until midweek. The mercury will climb to the high 30s in some places. And here in Johannesburg, we were expecting a high of 33 today. Pretoria with a high of 35. And I'm hoping that we can bring online Professor Guy Midgley, who's the director for the School of Climate Studies at Stellenbosch University, to explain what's responsible for these chart-topping temperatures. Good evening to you, Prof, and welcome. Let's just go into the definitions first. And what is the scientific definition of a heat wave, and when does it qualify as one?
There are a number of definitions, but essentially the temperature has to be about 5 degrees higher than the typical maximum for an extended period of time. That's roughly what a heat wave is. So there are statistical definitions, but it's basically the level of heat and the period of the heat.
And then what's the difference between that and a heat dome? Are they the same thing?
Excuse me, I didn't quite catch that.
The difference between a heat wave and a heat dome.
Oh, a heat dome is something that forms, for example, over a city where the heat does not dissipate and is exacerbated by things, or made worse by things like tar roads and buildings. And that can create what we call a heat dome.
And these then...
hot...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, you go.
No, it's fine.
We sound like we're having those kind of like in that relationship stage where we're giving each other a chance to talk. But jokes aside, though, it sounds like that happens predominantly in areas that are built up, have the kind of infrastructure, the roads and so on. Is that applicable in the South African context? Have we experienced any of that?
Yes, to some extent. There are some cities which can develop heat domes. And that can be worsened by a lack of wind, for example. That doesn't ventilate the city. But in general, cities that are on the coast would tend not to get heat domes, and those inland would be more at risk of heat domes.
Well, I can tell you, it's been really uncomfortably hot in a number of areas across South Africa. We think of Messina, Lephalale, Uppington, here in Johannesburg. I mean, spare a thought for Uppington, a high of 42 degrees there. So what causes it?
There are two main things causing this excessive heat. One is that we have a very high pressure system sitting over the interior of the country. And that high pressure is like, I don't know if you remember pumping your bicycle tires. The pump gets hot in your hands. That's the effect of high pressure on increasing heat. But the other big contributor is the very warm sea surface temperatures around our coast. Both the Indian Southern Ocean and the Southern Atlantic are all well above the average temperature. So those sea surface temperatures are also adding to the heat that we feel over the subcontinent. And that is a result of global warming and the El Nino condition combined. So these are, the chickens are coming home to roost. The global warming chickens are now coming home to roost for us, and we are feeling the effects.
And they're quite serious, right? These effects. We have emergency services warning about things like dehydration, drink water, stay in the shade, take breaks if you're walking outside. How dangerous is a heat wave, not only for humans, but for animals, pets, livestock?
Well, mammals have limits to what they can tolerate. So human beings, a healthy adult, can only survive for about 5 or 6 hours if the wet bulb temperature gets to 35 degrees. In other words, if it's 35 degrees with 100% humidity and you're exposed to that heat, you've got about 5 to 6 hours to live. As the humidity drops, you can tolerate higher temperatures because you can sweat, and that reduces your heat load. But 35 degrees is starting to really get into dangerous territory if the humidity gets high. So these are the sorts of things that are starting to happen much more frequently. If we don't keep global warming to about 1.5 degrees, but we let it rise to 2 degrees, the risk of these conditions can double to increase up to 10 times. And that has huge effects. The extremes are really sensitive to rises in average temperature. And that's what causes all the problems with insurance and human health problems driven by these extreme conditions.
Well, thanks for that, because a lot of people think, it'll be fine, we'll stay outside a little bit longer, or we'll work a little bit longer. When you say that, especially if it's north of, around 35 degrees, that's when it's really, really dangerous and people need to take action almost immediately. What are you doing to stay cool, Prof?
If the humidity is very high,
in your garden there.
The humidity is high. Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
No, I was asking, what are you doing to stay cool? And I see you in a pretty garden there, so I'm assuming that's helping.
I'm at the Stellenbosch Institute for Advanced Studies, which has a nice, cool spot behind the building. So
all right. Well, stay cool.
I'm staying well out of the heat.
Yeah, stay cool. And thank you very much for sharing that with us. A very serious warning that Professor Guy Midgley is reiterating tonight, that you need to take precautions if you're going to be working or be outdoors in these high temperatures. He is the director for the School of Climate Studies. You saw the beautiful background there at Stellenbosch University.